India and China start coming. In India, it is my opinion, and a lot of my business colleagues agree, that at the policy level, we are terrible. We are negative. Our government, for whatever reasons, first had too much control on the business, and then they moved away from that control thing. They do not fully understand all the businesses. And where they do, I think, the fact that we are a democracy, the fact that policies need to be made on an even keel for everybody, the fact that tax administration has to work in a certain way, the fact that there is corruption, that you can't do very much about it. So there is a certain cost of doing business which happens to be much, much higher than a country like China. So at this level, we don't stand a chance. With things like GST, improvements will happen. Infrastructure is improving. So every day this is improving, but it's far, far away, or far shorter than what our Chinese friends will be doing. At the enabling environment level, I'm not so sure if we are worse off or better off, depending on which sector you're looking at. So if you're looking at a sector like media, we have far more transparency, we have far more openness. People love to watch all sorts of things on the television. It might be good. So from that perspective, it's good. Cell phones or broadband, we have a bigger market. So all that if you look at, yes, and from an environmental perspective, we have some advantages, and so do the Chinese. For example, China has, ever since the recession happened, completely changed track. So from being an export-led economy, they are looking inwards and trying to grow domestic consumption. That's the biggest effort that their government is making today. So they're beginning to realize that they were not doing well in this area, and they're doing a lot of things about it. At the company level, it's strange, and I don't know what the real reasons are, but at the company level I find that the Indian companies are far, far stronger than the Chinese. Whether you look at management, you look at quality management, you look at HR management, you look at financial management issues. Of course, that's a very generalized, sweeping statement that I make, but I have traveled far and wide into China. I've met a lot of companies, especially if you look at from, I'm not talking MNCs because Coca-Cola will look the same anywhere they are. Same processes will drive them. And people are similarly intelligent finally. So they manage to make the companies look very similar. But if you look at companies that are not driven, transnational processes are not driving them, then I think what I'm saying is quite true. You have a big issue with the competence level of those companies. What is interesting is that I also am beginning to believe that the fact that these are too weak in India, these companies have become strong. And the Chinese companies have grown to be pampered. They were a publicly limited company, they were sold off to somebody, one of their employees, for chicken feed. So they got it very cheap. Land came cheap, building came cheap, the technology was available. So they didn't have to struggle so much to make it to the sort of levels that we're talking about in India today. And maybe in countries like India, the struggle was much more, struggle always makes you stronger. So probably that's the reason why it's like that. My reason to present to you this whole scenario was now to begin to understand why it is, in my opinion, completely essential and inevitable that any Indian company that wants to make it big in manufacturing has to start talking to China. Not compete with it, but complement it. And that's something that we begin to believe in sometimes. So what we are saying is, if the inner circle, I'm stronger than some company in China, and the outer circle, they are stronger, what are the processes that we can share? How can we two together come so that these concentric circles together become much stronger? And that's our need to do business with China. And that probably is also the need for China to do business with us. Because in the enabling environment, the Indian market is growing much faster in a lot of areas. If you look at electronic components like mine, the need for components in India is far, far stronger. And it's growing much faster than it is growing in China. And China has enough competition. So anybody who over there who's looking for a bigger market, an easier market, starts looking at India as a big. And that is where we feel, okay, so can I share my market with somebody in China? And can the Chinese guys share the competitiveness that comes because of the policy and the enablers there? And I think that is the reason why we start talking to each other. Clear so far? Okay, this is where we are today, or I would say last year, just to sort of So we got to 50 crores last year in capacitors, which is not a large turnover by any standard. If we look at capacitors, it almost means over 1 million capacitors per day. That's the kind of turnover we're looking at. 450 people in this unit. In India, we are the largest. We also have Philips, which is now in the form of Vishay, another component, very large company, and FCOS, which is a part of Siemens. They are my competitors. They also make it in India. What we do is we are at the moment larger than them. In our product type and the kind of capacitors we make, we are not cheap, but that's not important. We are a lot of my production goes to Europe, which is a very difficult market to operate in. And 2.5 years ago, we acquired a manufacturing facility for the reason that I told you just now in China. Basically, to start looking at their competitiveness and use that as our manufacturing base to some extent. First for the Chinese market, and maybe at some stage also for the Indian market. That was the intention, but we did this. How did we get there and what do we think we are strong in? Okay, I'm going to strip this largely, but it was not, suffice to say that it is generally a 450 people company, which means that it's not that some workers come in and their job is only to look at a capacitor whether it's good or bad and give it to the next level, only put a mark on it, only pack. Everybody is, at least we try very hard, that everybody is fully participating. So we start with a prayer every morning at 9 o'clock. A prayer is secular, and everybody is praying. We are 24-hour factory. Whoever was present at that point in time, what 100 people are praying for customer satisfaction, praying for example management, praying that we learn from our mistakes, praying that our costs come down. The idea is simple. Everybody has the same vision as far as possible. It's like playing a game of football and everybody else in the company starts making the goals of somewhere else. So the store manager says, my goal is to reduce the inventory. Production manager wants to increase the production. The sales manager wants to increase the sales. That's not the way to run a company. If you all agree that the capacitor we make is not something to be ashamed of. If there is a customer complaint, we will not put it under the carpet, but we will put it out on the board. So we have a big board. All customer complaints are mentioned at the entrance. So when a new visitor comes in our business, B2B, everybody wants to see your factory before they buy from you. So when they come and they're first struck by this board, and their question is, are you stupid? Why do you put the complaints up there? No, we are not stupid. We want to know what our mistakes are. We want you to know what our mistakes were. We want you to know that we take pride in the fact that we learn from our mistakes. Now that's the kind of culture that you can only bring in when you talk to people every day. So what you begin to do is use people, not just their hand, but use their heart, their mind, their soul in that business. Not more intelligence, but more soul into the business that you do. Take pride, you see at the end, take pride in the fact that we don't have the infrastructure in this country to produce, but we still manufacture. Take pride in the fact that we produce great capacitors at very low cost. So a lot of businessmen are trying to hide their profits and say, I don't make much profit because the stakeholders will demand their share. If my manager knows I will make a lot of profit, if I was everybody is asking for more income. That's the common logic that works through business. We have tried to change that. Simple. If you don't make good profits, there's something wrong with you. That means we're not doing our job right. So let us look at the profits carefully on a daily basis. Now, why can't we make more of it? And I have no fear in sharing with them, because the more I make, the more I share. So once you begin to do that, genuine participatory management begins to happen. Now that's something that the Chinese don't understand. And while I can use their competitiveness as producers, not even manufacturers, because manufacturing is a big word. Just as producers, some of this we are trying to apply over there, to see what changes we can bring in and what will that do to their competitiveness. And that's a story I still don't have an answer to, but we are working on it.